Howdy, y'all. This is the Unemployed Man Show. That's me. I've been putting in job applications, and I got a few interviews coming up. And between doing that, I was able to find time to go and see Barbenheimer. I'm a little late on it. Everybody else got their review stuff out last week, but I've been a little busy, so get out of my ass. I saw Barbie first. It just made more sense. I needed a nice little sugar rush before the 3-hour World War II biographical science textbook that I was to watch later. Also, it's not called Oppenheimer's Killer Beach House, so it just made more sense to not fight the current on this one. So, yeah, I got my beefy spicy stick. I got my triangular chocolate bleh. I got my juicy fruity beans. Let's go. Let's get it done. So right off the bat, we begin with a very delightful homage to probably the last movie I would have ever associated with the Barbie intellectual property, that being 2001: A Space Odyssey. I won't tell you how. It's really cool what they did. They got Helen Mirren to do the narration, which is always a very welcome addition to any project for me. She delivers a lot of the exposition and never lets it get grating or boring. So kudos to the production team. Naturally, the production design for something like this would have to be something special, given the subject matter, and I was definitely not disappointed there. Some very nice touches all over the place. One thing that stuck out for me, the sight of all these women characters in Barbie Land supporting each other 100% without question, that was very pleasant for me to see. There were some parallels here with another movie I saw this summer, Spider-Man Across or Into the Spider-Verse, and which I'll mention only briefly because of how divisive the issue is. Across the Spider-Verse had a variant of Spider-Man in it, in a wheelchair, which is cool, and they had another one that was pregnant and drove a motorcycle, which was cool, but I don't know, it felt weird, but I'm not against it. They did it well. And then this Barbie has a Barbie variant in a wheelchair, which again makes sense, and then one that is plus size, which I'm plus size myself, so yeah, great representation. I'd like to see that as much as anybody else, as much as any other fat person. So how you feel about these last two sentences is probably how you're going to feel about the whole of the Barbie movie. It definitely reinforces my love of Dua Lipa. She has at least one song in there that's featured very prominently and has a cameo in it herself. I love Dua Lipa. And let's see, what else? There were some times they used the word weird to denote something negative in the movie. I cannot stand when people use the word weird as an insult. Barbie does it a lot herself. She does grow a lot by the end of the film, but as a weirdo myself, hearing weird used as a negative or as an insult just tells me that whoever is saying it that way is small and ignorant and uninteresting as a person, and just is against things that might surprise them or that are new and interesting. And I just have very little patience for that, but it's fine. It didn't ruin anything for me, and it was for a purpose, so it was perfectly fine. If I never hear that God-forsaken Indigo Girls song again, it will be too soon. They used it really well in the movie. It was very charming, but it's the only Indigo Girls song anybody knows, and I can't stand it, but it's fine. Luckily, the movie is not just for kids. There's a lot of jokes in it for adults as well. This movie really reminded me of how great an actress Margot Robbie is, especially in terms of crying on screen. She is magnificent, but that is especially the case during the several instances of Barbie crying in the movie. It made me cry during the goddamn Barbie movie. I was very impressed by that, and I would very much like to see more. There are so many terrific one-liners in this movie. The majority of them, as a lot of people might tell you, come from Ryan Gosling's Ken, who, if you didn't know, kind of basically becomes the temporary latter act, I won't say villain, but certainly the antagonistic force for a while in the second half of the movie, but he's easily my favorite part. I don't want to say that too quickly, being a man myself, but most people will tell you Ryan Gosling is the best part. There's been a lot of discourse about how blunt and blatant the social commentary is in this movie, and it is both of those things, But I mean, if you're any kind of reasonably secure man, you should not find yourself confronted or affronted by this. You should still have a very good time if you allow yourself to. That's very important. You have to allow it to happen. Ken gets the best musical and dance number in the movie. It is exquisite, and I'm so glad that it does not sound like something Lin-Manuel Miranda had anything to do with. I cannot stand his hip-hop, whatever you want to call it. I just, nothing, no song he's ever written. Maybe something from Moana I could get behind, but other than Moana, I do not care for Lin-Manuel Miranda's music. There is not a single mention of anyone's sexuality or gender identity, which is a break that I sorely needed. I am certainly not against those things coming up, but it was just nice. It was nice. They had already forced enough social commentary in there. I really could use this break. So thank you, Greta Gerwig. Maybe the shining, my favorite moment in the movie, a certain actress shows up named Rhea Perlman. I've never been certain how to say her name, but she plays a very important part in it. I'm so thrilled to see her again. Always, she's always a blessing when she shows up in a movie or a TV show. She was on Always Sunny in Philadelphia recently. She's in one of my favorite movies ever called Matilda, and of course she's probably most well known for being on Cheers for a long time. But she is long overlooked and tremendously undervalued, and is absolutely a legend, even when she's totally playing it straight like she is in this movie, which is very unusual. People, oh yeah, she also shows up on Brooklyn Nine-Nine in a small but fantastic part. She's hilarious. Also, of all the movies I've seen so far this year, Barbie has easily the best closing line. I won't tell you what it is, but it's great, and I loved it. And it's very much not geared towards me, but I loved it anyway. And now, oh wait, no. So in conclusion, the movie is really great for kids. It's tremendous for adults. It's great for women. And there's a lot for dudes to enjoy, whether they're gay or straight or any designation in between. Barbie is awesome and absolutely had no right to be as good as it is, even though, I mean, the director's great, Margot Robbie's great, all the ingredients are great, so I don't know why I was so surprised to see how good it is. But it was great, and I would see it again. And now, we move on to the second half, or the second 60%, because it's 3 hours long and Barbie is 2 hours. Oppenheimer. The opening shot of Oppenheimer immediately reminded me of a movie called Grave of the Fireflies, which is a very famous anime movie, and if you've ever seen it, you probably know immediately why it comes to mind, given the subject matter of this movie. Christopher Nolan has something of a reputation for making very cold and sterile movies, and this movie goes not a small distance towards changing that through more than just the inclusion of his first ever sex scene, which is in this movie. It contains not a small amount of bright colors, which was a welcome change for him. He's not a particularly colorful guy, his movies. Even in something like Interstellar, it was more about the visual itself and not the bright coloration of it. Though the music, while tremendous and stirring, goes on constantly. It is very rarely given a break. So it's always happening, occasionally to the film's detriment. It does a lot for me on the visual front without having to involve any kind of time travel with black holes, though. So even though it's got colors in it, which again is unusual, but the nature of the visuals, I guess, was more impressive to me than the presentation, if that makes any sense. I'm pretty convinced this is going to get Christopher Nolan his first directing Oscar, and I'd be shocked and appalled if Cillian Murphy didn't get nominated for Best Actor as well, even though he kind of sounds like Kiefer Sutherland in Dark City here and there. If you've never seen Dark City, it is amazing. It is kind of compared to The Matrix a lot, even though it came out first, and I would say it's a lot better. It's not as it didn't do as much for like the action genre, but in terms of like philosophy of it, it's awesome. I love it. Dark City from 1998 or 99. This movie goes back and forth in time, very Tarantino-ish in that way. It could be hard to keep up with if they didn't go out of their way to set the flashback scenes in black and white and the modern day scenes or the current time scenes in color. But the comparisons to the movie JFK that this movie has been getting are very apt in that way. up to and including an appearance from a certain legendary actor who is playing President Truman in this movie. I won't spoil it, but you should recognize him when you see him. He was in the Batman movies too. Hopefully you know when you see him who I'm talking about. There's a couple of instances of extremely cool actors showing up close to the beginning of the movie and not having any lines until very close to the end for a moment. Maybe it's just because I'm stupid, but for a minute I was like, are they really going to have that guy here and not give him anything to say? And they eventually do, but it was surprising that they waited so long into the movie to do it. But the movie is 3 hours long, as I mentioned. The way it's done, though, it never lagged. I never felt the runtime, which I very much appreciated. The centerpiece of the movie, of course, is the atom bomb test. And the sequence leading up to it is absolutely stunning. It is so tense, and the violins are going off, very staccato, very severe violins. They're working overtime, buddy. Thank God for Hans Zimmer. He's tremendous. He always is. And they really knew exactly, of all the music is constantly going in this movie, but they knew exactly when the music absolutely needed to stop for a minute in this movie. It abruptly ceases at just the perfect time for maximum dramatic effect, and it is stunning. The scene leading up to the bomb test is great, even though my favorite nuking scene still belongs in Terminator 2. That's never going to change, I don't think. Albert Einstein shows up, and in the theater I was in, he got actual applause. Why, I'm not positive, but the guy that plays him, his name is Tom Conti. He's a Scottish guy. He's worked with Christopher Nolan before. He's the same actor that punches Batman in the back to fix his dislocated spine in The Dark Knight Rises. So when you see Einstein in this movie, just know that his last movie, or maybe a couple movies ago, he was beating the shit out of Batman to fix his spine. One actor who is present throughout the film is this guy, Jason Clarke, that I'm a very big fan of. He's exquisite. He is the guy that is interrogating Oppenheimer throughout the movie. And I'm just struck by him every time he speaks. He is so good. I don't really bring that up for any particular reason. I'm just a big fan. But this movie is fantastic. It feels like 2 or 3 movies stitched together. And I'm not complaining because it does it really well. But it's a lot to take in. It goes back and forth. It's a lot to keep up with. But it did compel me, as soon as I got out of the screening, to go and read about all these famous scientists that popped up in the movie. Your Ernest Lawrence and your Niels Bohr and all this. It felt so much like an Avengers movie for science dorks, and I could not appreciate it more for that, because that's not really a thing that we get a whole lot of anymore, with all the Transformers and shit floating around. This is a very, I didn't feel insulted by this. But I was not expecting to be so pleased by both of these movies. They were both great in 100% different ways, and they made for a very compelling double feature, and I would do it again. In fact, I might just this weekend. I went to the no, that's not true. I went to the regular screen nearest to me. I might go to the IMAX one over the weekend, at least for Oppenheimer, and see it again. But yeah, that's the I come to the end. This is the end of my thoughts. This will get smoother over the next couple of episodes. I actually wrote this one instead of last time where I just improvised everything. I hope it comes across a little bit smoother. But yeah, I haven't decided what I'm going to do next week, if I'll even have time. I have a job interview tomorrow, so we will see. But if you're still there, thank you for watching and paying attention. Yeah, I'll see you again soon. Probably, maybe. Bye-bye now.